Hello everyone, this is James Swanwick. Welcome to the show. I am recording this from Medellin, Colombia, where I am currently. This is where we're having our annual retreat, January 18 to 22. If you would like to attend, you're welcome to send me an email at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com and just put in the subject line Colombia and I can send you details. In this episode, you're going to be listening to me be interviewed on a show which is called the Recovered on Purpose show. It's hosted by a new friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Adam Vibe Gunton, and he has a website which is recoveredonpurpose.com. That's recoveredonpurpose.com, and he helps people who had really serious alcohol and drug issues to recover from drugs and alcohol. In fact, you're going to hear me talk in this upcoming interview about how I think it should just be called drugs. And why do we always say drugs and alcohol as opposed to just drugs? Because alcohol is a drug and it actually is the worst drug. So we'll be talking about that. And I was interviewed on his show, the Recovered on Purpose show, and he was kind enough to give me a recording of that. And so now I'm going to play that interview for you on our podcast, which is the Alcohol Free Lifestyle podcast. We're just coming up to the holiday period, aren't we? So by the time that this is airing, it'll be just before, a couple of weeks before Christmas, New Year's 2022. 2023 is right around the corner. Can you believe it? I am 47 years old. Man, Father Time remains undefeated. It just keeps going, doesn't it? If you have been listening to the show for a while and you've been considering stopping drinking and you've tried to do it on your own and you've found it very challenging, and maybe you have successfully stopped for a while, but then you've returned to drinking. Willpower is not working. White knuckling it is not working. You don't want to go to AA. You don't want to go to rehab. Then I invite you to join us in either our 90-day or year-long programs, especially if you're going into the holiday period and this has been on your mind for months or years or decades even. Great time to start might be January 1st. Even better time to start is now. When is the best time to transform your life? Well, the best time is now. Having said that, you'll probably procrastinate because we're all human beings and that's what we do. But like I said, Father Time remains undefeated. And if you can take action right now and change your life, I promise you will lead an extraordinary life. Alcohol-free, with clarity, focus, energy, sleeping well, feeling better, achieving your bucket list goals. I can't tell you how many people who go through our 90-day or 365-day programs knock things off their bucket list. We've got a gentleman at the moment, a guy called Christian Lee. He won't mind me mentioning his name because he has done a testimonial for us, but he's currently sailing across the ocean. He's a 60-something man from the UK. He took care of his ailing wife for a few years until she died. He was drinking excessively. He joined us in our 90-day stop drinking program, successfully stopped drinking, and identified that one of the items on his bucket list was to learn how to sail and sail across the ocean. So he is doing that as we speak. I'm waiting for him to get to the other side and let me know how it went. And he has credited being inside of our 90-day program and being alcohol-free to him achieving this bucket list item. So I want to just ask you the question, what is possible for you in your life if you finally level up, take action, stop procrastinating, just say enough, no more, I'm ready, let's do it. And even though it feels really scary, and even though you have a tremendous amount of resistance, and even though you're like, I don't want to give this thing up, you know deep down you need to give this thing up, then as always, you are invited to apply to be part of our 90-day or 365-day community. It's for business owners, executives, investors, high achievers, definitely over the age of 35. Most of our clients are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Most clients, 60% of our clients, I would say, are higher net worth people. So that their average income is over $250,000 a year. About 40% of our clients are 150K plus. That kind of gives you an idea of the clientele and the demographic that we support inside of those programs. If you are not part of that demographic, then we do have a 30-day no alcohol challenge. This is an online program. You can go to 30daynoalcoholchallenge.com and you can enroll there. As you'll hear me say in this upcoming interview, 30-day challenges are nice. They're fun. And it's a challenge. That's the word challenge, right? You're challenging yourself. But I can tell you that all the studies suggest that those who do take a 30-day break from alcohol don't let it stick, or it's challenging for it to stick long term. And so what happens is you get to day 30, day 31, and then you want to celebrate with the drink. You feel like you're in prison during these 30 days. And you're just trying to get to day 30 where you can finally relieve the tension and have a drink. So I say, what is the point of doing that? Yeah, it's great that you had a glimpse of living the alcohol-free lifestyle. You get what it feels like, and that's terrific. But if on day 31 you're just trying to break out of the prison of not drinking and relieve the tension by drinking, and then you return to the very drinking habits that got you wanting to do this challenge in the first place, what the heck was the point? So be very careful is what I would say to you about convincing yourself, persuading yourself that you'll just do a 30-day challenge and that'll be enough for you to break the back of this alcohol. Because quitting alcohol and staying quit from alcohol are two completely different skill sets. And in our 90-day and in our 1-year program, we teach the skill set of not just quitting alcohol, but staying quit. And doing it in a really fun, aspirational way, which is going to transform the quality of your relationships, your communication, your connection with your children. It'll grow your business, help your company, help you climb the corporate ladder if that's your intention, of course. Be calm, sleep better. Wow, your sleep just improves dramatically when you stop drinking alcohol. And just a warning, you do get better looking when you stop drinking alcohol. So if you do want to apply, now would be the best time to do it. Not as good a time would be you wait until after the holidays and Christmas, and then you reach out to us December 28, 29, and you say, I want to start on the 1st. Listen, as long as you start, that's great. But why are you waiting until the 1st? I would invite you to start now. When is the best time to change your life? Now. Do you want to change your life? Yes. When would be the best time to start that? Are you really going to say, maybe in like 3 weeks from now? Okay. Best time is now. So if you've been on the fence for a while, you've been thinking about it for a while, you're inspired, but you got resistance and you're ready to push through the resistance, then I invite you to click the link in the description of this episode. It is alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. That will give you some background about what our 90-day and 365-day programs consist of. The way to become a member is you apply. So you fill out an application form, you book an introductory call with us. It's only 15-20 minutes. There's nothing to enroll in on that particular call. It's just a getting to know you call. The way that you schedule that call and have one of our coaches phone you at a time that you choose is to go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. And that link is also in the show notes here in the description of this podcast. You might be listening on Apple Podcasts. You can go there and click it. If you're listening on Spotify, it should also be there. But again, the URL to go to book that call is alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. All right, that is it. Let's get into the show. Again, this is me being interviewed on the Recovered on Purpose show. The host is Adam Vibe Gunton, and we're going to be talking about my journey from drinking alcohol to not drinking alcohol. What is the most dangerous drug in the world? How do you finally break the back of alcohol? What is the verbiage you should use when politely declining someone's offer of a drink? How do you have fun without drinking? And lots of other amazing things that are going to help you live this alcohol-free lifestyle. So here we go. Here is me being interviewed on the Recovered on Purpose show.
Hello, my beautiful Recovered on Purpose family. Welcome to the Recovered on Purpose show, Guest Sundays. I've got a special guest today I'm super excited to introduce you to. I don't know if you've been living under a rock lately, but if you've been on Facebook, you've seen my boy James Swanwick here, helping people get sober, helping people, stop drinking. We're actually going to get into a conversation because I just use a word he doesn't like to use. So enjoy the show, guys, and keep living Recovered on Purpose.
The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live Recovered on Purpose.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the show. Go ahead and drop in the comments where you're coming in from. Drop your clean and sober dates. We already got the celebration lights on for you. But guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to my good friend James here. And James, let them know who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I'm Australian American. I help executives, entrepreneurs, professionals to stop drinking. Most of them are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. I haven't drunk alcohol since 2010. I also have a sleep company. I help people with their sleep hygiene. I was a former journalist in another world, used to write for newspapers and magazines and hosted a couple TV shows. And now I'm all about health and wellness.
Amen. So you stopped drinking in 2010. And usually what we like to do on the show is kind of say the story. Like, why was it that you wanted to stop drinking and how did you do it?
Well, I was a socially acceptable drinker in my native country of Australia when I was growing up. And so in that sense, I had a couple of drinks every night. And then on the weekends, I might get drunk some weekends. But, I was more a consistent drinker than a so heavy that I was getting arrested or hitting rock bottom or just completely destroying my life.
Right.
The way I describe it is I was feeling like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 because I was unproductive. I didn't sleep well. I put on weight. I had strained relationships. I was irritable. And I identified it was because of my drinking. And again, I wasn't like being so crazy that I was getting arrested or waking up in a ditch or anything like that. But it was destructive. It was like this slow death, so to speak. And then I got to 2010. I was in my mid-30s at the time. And I was in Austin, Texas. And I went to a festival called South by Southwest. I ordered 2 Bombay Sapphire gin and tonics at an open bar at an industry party. I had the 2 drinks, didn't get drunk, went back to my hotel, went to sleep, woke up the next morning and looked in the mirror. And I was like, oh, James, you just look average. You're bloated, you're overweight. It's like, oh. Anyway, I went to an IHOP next door, International House of Pancakes.
Yep.
So
my story, actually.
Is that right? So I went to this IHOP and I sat down. I was like, I wasn't like fully hungover, but I could taste the gin from the night before.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting in that IHOP going, what am I doing in an IHOP? Why am I here feeling like crap? And I just said to myself, you know what? I'm going to commit to taking a 30-day break from alcohol just to see how it feels. And the longest I'd gone without drinking in probably my entire adult life at that point was maybe a week.
Yeah.
So the idea of stopping for 30 days was a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, I committed to it. I figured out how to do it. And after 30 days, I lost 13 pounds of fat. I slept better. I looked better. I joined a gym and I auditioned to be a sports center anchor on ESPN, which is a pretty famous TV show. And I got the job.
Wow.
And I was like, damn, in 30 days of not drinking, my whole life is seemingly transformed. Just 30 days.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this feels pretty good. I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. And then I pushed it out to 40 days and 50. I got to 1 year. I was back in Austin, Texas at the same South by Southwest festival, like a year later. And I went up to the bar and I ordered a Bud Light to have a celebratory drink to celebrate 1 year alcohol free. And right at the last minute, I was like, let me just think about this for a second. I put it down and I go, okay, in 1 year, I've lost 25 pounds. I look amazing. I feel good. I slept better. I've attracted higher caliber friends and romantic relationships.
Yeah.
I'm a host on a TV show. I feel good. I'm like, I think I might just hand this beer back.
That's a good idea.
And I did, and I haven't drunk alcohol since. And now I coach people. That's that same process that I kind of taught myself on how to stop and, most importantly, stay stopped.
Amen. I love that. So what was because most of my audience, we were in that, that cycle of really low bottoms and things. We had the DUIs, we had the jail time and stuff like that. And for me, I got to a point where I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. And I had to, have divine intervention, had to do 12 steps, had to do all these different things in order to stop. But what was the thing that you were finding was working for you in the first 30 days for someone that is watching that just is ready to stop drinking?
Yeah. So it was a mindset shift for me. I'd read some neuroscience that said that if you keep telling yourself what not to do, you will find it challenging to not do that very thing. You'll end up thinking about it and probably end up doing it. So I manipulated my mind in a way to say to myself, instead of don't drink, you shouldn't drink, don't drink. Instead, I would say, I only drink soda water, ice, and a piece of lime.
That's good.
I'm only going to drink water tonight. I'm only going to order a mocktail. When I walk into a bar or a restaurant, I'm going to go up to the bar and I'm going to say, can I please have a soda, water, ice, and a piece of lime? That was always the story. And there was never the word alcohol in it.
Yeah.
So I just manipulated my mind and said, okay, I'm just going to keep telling myself what I will do instead of what I won't do. Yeah. And that seemed to be a big, significant mindset shift for me, that it just got me moving forward. And I was choosing a lifestyle as opposed to saying no to a lifestyle.
Yes, I love that so much. And that's actually something that, I use in relapse prevention and things now, because I believe that, even us addicts and alcoholics that had to go through a lot to quit drinking and using drugs, to not go back to relapse, to not go back to drugs and alcohol, we have to be focused on something completely different than our past. We don't have to be recovering for the rest of our life and fighting drugs and alcohol for the rest of our life when we have the same potential. We have the same, the same opportunities as everybody else now that we're in recovery. So what are these dreams we want to live? How are we going to think about these dreams? What are these goals we want to set? How do we want to do this? And if we're focused on something that we're going to do in the future, whether it's 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 3 years from now, having that track will always take us that way instead of going back.
Yeah.
And that's my thought as well.
A lot of the more powerful tactics or processes, I guess, we have in my coaching program, because I have a 90-day stop drinking program that helps people come in, have a 1-year stop drinking, and have a lifelong stop drinking program, right? Yeah. But a lot of the catalyst for change is asking people in the first week, what's on your bucket list? What are those things that you really want to create and achieve in your life that's been on your bucket list for years, but you've been procrastinating on, you haven't got to, you've been kicking it down the road. And I'll give you one example. There's a gentleman who I think is 64, 65. He lives over in London, UK. He joined our program. He'd been taking care of his cancer-stricken wife for 3 years, and then she passed. And he was drinking all the way through that process. He was drinking afterwards. He joined our process, said, I want to stop drinking for 90 days, ended up doing it for a year. He's still alcohol-free. What I mean is he went through our process for a year. But in the first week, I asked him, what's something you really want to do? And he said, well, my departed wife said, after I'm gone, I request that you do this thing on the top of your list, which is sail across the ocean. And so as we're recording this now, 1 week ago, last weekend, that gentleman, whose name's Christian, he started a 6-week journey sailing across the ocean.
Let's go.
And he's been prepping for it for about 8 months, I think, right? And now I can't reach him because he's somewhere across the Atlantic. I don't know where. But that for him was like one of those driving motivations to remain alcohol free, right? And to continue on the path. So it's not to say that he wasn't tempted along the way. It's like, kind of feel like I would have a drink. This is stressful, I want to have a drink. But just saying, I'm going to sail across the ocean. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fulfill this request of my wife. This is my motivation. This is keeping me on the journey. That was enough to keep him on the journey.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. And I love that, because I made a relapse prevention worksheet, and it's different than a lot of the things that you see from doctors and things like that, because it's about avoiding triggers and be watchful of the places and people that you're around and things like that. Mine's all about, like, I literally have a bucket list on there.
Yeah.
Like, what is your bucket list? And you have to make a date in your first year of recovery, or whatever year you're in right now. You have to make a date of when you're picking one of those things and doing it. Because when I was in my addiction, right, since I was 18 years old, I always wanted to go skydiving. But I couldn't go skydiving because it cost a lot of heroin to go skydiving. and to get away from heroin that long, I just couldn't do it. And when I got 6 months clean and sober, I went skydiving for my first time.
Wow.
And now I've been skydiving in 3 different countries in my recovery. And it's not just about it's not about the skydiving part of it. It's about the choice that I am somebody who does what I want to do with my life now, in a positive way, not someone that's making these, destructive behaviors and these destructive decisions because I want to use drugs. It's like, what can I do that I've always wanted to do? And I think that's like, we're on the same track with purpose, activities, hobbies, things that you love about life will make life better than alcohol ever could. Am I right?
100%. I mean, I've had a life with alcohol and I've had a life without. Without is way better. And I've accomplished so much more. And again, maybe your life is not about just racking up accomplishments, what society deems as success. But whatever has you feeling fulfilled. Whatever gives you pleasure, I don't mean short-term pleasure from a drug, right? But whatever gives you fulfillment and pleasure from healthy habits, from friendships, from community, from creative accomplishments. Maybe even society doesn't know about these accomplishments, but it's you know about it, right?
Yes.
If we can focus on those things and I wouldn't say chase, but pursue those things, then we stop to think about wanting or needing to drink alcohol or take any kind of drug to feel better, because we already feel better because we're on our mission, we're on our purpose, we're moving forward.
Yes.
A lot of time, what I coach is not just all the time, right? This is how you're not going to stop drinking alcohol. This is how you get over triggers, etc. A lot of it is just focusing on what it is that you really want to do, installing great habits, and then the stress and anxiety starts to subside. And when stress and anxiety starts to subside, then your need for something like alcohol or any drug starts to subside. It just kind of like crumbles. Yeah. So yeah, again, I love that you went skydiving. That's amazing. I haven't done that yet.
Let's go, bro.
Let's go. I know. I want to do it now. Yeah. Let's do it. But...
And I went paragliding here in Medellin.
Yeah.
And it was like, meh, because it's skydiving, it's jumping out of a plane. Yeah. Paragliding is just kind of like gloating around. I was like, yeah, I need to go skydiving here now too. Yeah. But so something else that I talk to people about in their recovery, right? Because most people in recovery from serious drug addiction, serious alcoholism, are involved in some kind of fellowship, whether it be like AA or NA or some kind of church fellowship, things like this. But what I try to tell people is to get involved in activities that have nothing to do with recovery also. Like, who are you now? What are these things that you want to do? And what I think is interesting is this is exactly how you and I met. We met at a hobby here. And some of you guys know, you've seen some videos that I put up about paddle tennis. And I'm a paddle tennis player now because I love the game. And that's where we met, right? So what other hobbies and activities do you encourage people to do once they quit drinking?
Anything that lights you up, anything that you find interesting. I went for a walk last night, and ironically, I was looking into a pub/restaurant, and I was like, oh, there's a pub and restaurant, but they had a section cordoned off for painting class. So literally there were 20 people in a section of this pub with a teacher at the front who were teaching people how to draw these big lips. You know, like the logo from the Rolling Stones tour with the big lips and the tongue coming out? They were doing that. They were all practicing painting. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, damn, even though it was in a pub, even though it's in a place where you probably, you want to avoid alcohol, just the fact that they were in a community having fun and doing a collective activity, like a shared activity, just seems so inspiring to me. Like, I love that. There was a great book that I read. It was a New York Times bestseller called The Power of Habit by Charles C. Duhigg. And he says change becomes probable, not possible, but probable when you do an activity when you do a shared activity in a like-minded group. So when a group of people have a collective goal and you're all doing that and you're all moving in the direction to achieve that goal, that is when change becomes probable. So to answer your question, what are some of the things? Anything that lights you up, anything that gives you joy. For me, it was my physical health. Like I started going to the gym. I loved learning how to lift heavy weights. I ran a half marathon. I traveled the world. I started a couple of businesses. I love listening to music. I studied fine art. I didn't actually create art, but I studied art. People like Michelangelo and all these kind of Da Vinci. That was really interesting to me. But I read a study also recently that showed that the single most important factor to happiness, to long-term happiness, is community. So it's being in a community. And I don't mean being in an AA community or being in a community of people who are just talking about staying sober or not drinking. I mean a community of people who are maybe going hiking on a morning, or they're doing a book club if you're into that, or it might be going on a trip together. It might be doing paddle tennis. Could be if you're a man and you like playing rugby and want some combative sports. Could be joining rugby. Could be a swimming club. Could be a tennis club. I mean, it's endless what you can do. But getting into those communities of like-minded people And I would probably invite you not to join a community of people who are going on pub crawls.
Right.
Like, let's go out and get blind drunk and go on a pub crawl. You can do it and you can have fun being alcohol free, but it's not those people of that mindset who are doing that, who need the alcohol for social connection. It's probably not a environment or community that you would choose over something where people's mindset is wellness and connection and that kind of stuff.
Right. And I love looking for new networks. I love looking for, people that are working towards something else. And, you're literally speaking my language. And this isn't something talked about enough in the recovery community, about how we can separate from the same system that has us right where we are right now. Right. And I'm a 12-stepper. I did the 12 steps. I'm a member of certain fellowships that I don't say publicly. And I'm a huge proponent for them. And I think they can work if you work them. But I think that there's something failing, obviously, in this system that we're doing now. And I think we need to open up the conversation to how are we going to collectively, whether it's somebody that suffered seriously from alcoholism or whether it's someone that just wants to stop drinking, how can we start doing this together collectively to start helping the people out there that are really suffering? And one of the ideas, right, is that we stop fighting about what's right and what's wrong. That's the main thing that I see in this community is like, I have heroin addicts that are afraid to go on Suboxone because of what people will think about them. And Suboxone is saving lives. I didn't do Suboxone, but I have friends who it saved their life and then they got off of it. Right. And then some people will talk poorly about the 12 steps because of their experience in certain fellowships. And I can understand that. But what we need to do as a community is continue to connect and continue to move toward a common goal, which is ultimately to help people stop drinking, stop banging heroin, and move forward towards a purposeful life. So I wanted to have this conversation with you, and I think that it's a good one to have because you didn't go through AA or anything like that, right?
No.
Okay. And I've seen some of the videos, and we're going to have the conversation. There's probably people that are members of fellowships here, and we're going to have this conversation about it. What are your thoughts about the 12-step fellowships? And
so let me start by saying this. The data shows that AA is effective long-term for 7% of people. That's being generous, 7%. Okay, so I would invite you to do your own research, but if you just start by Googling AA actual success rate, you'll see some studies that were done as far back as 2014, which showed that anyone entering AA has about a 7% success rate of achieving long-term freedom over alcohol.
And long-term is 1 year.
Yeah, that's right. Which means, just by doing the math, it means it has a 93% failure rate of helping people long-term with their alcohol. Okay. So it's not what I believe, it's just what the data shows. And what the data shows, the way I'm reading it, is that AA is incredibly ineffective for most people, right? So I look at that and I go, okay, well, why is it ineffective? Now I can share with you what I believe, if you like. So what I believe is it's ineffective because of a few factors. It tends to be based in the past. So you're lamenting the past. You're in shame a lot of the time. You're kind of looking at your feet. You're embarrassed. You have to acknowledge, or you don't have to, but you're encouraged to acknowledge that you're an alcoholic. But in many cases, I would suggest that most people are not alcoholics. I just think that they drink too much, right? And there's
amen,
right? So they don't want to go in there and say, I'm an alcoholic, because deep down they don't feel that they are, or maybe they've been convinced that they are when ultimately they are not.
Right.
It's free, okay? And then people might go, well, that shouldn't be a problem. Well, there are lots of studies that show that when you pay for something, you pay attention. When something is free, you're not as accountable. There's not as much buy-in, okay? So people will often criticize me and my services because I charge for my services. They'll criticize me and say, you should be helping people. AA is free. And they'll, on certain Facebook advertising that I do, there's all these awful messages. And I have to say, almost all of them are from people in AA and who are defending AA. They call me a snake oil salesman. They say this person's a disgrace. He's charging for something. Hey, people, don't listen to this guy. Go to AA. It's free. And what I would offer is this, is that it's failing because it's free. And it's failing because you have to say you're an alcoholic, and it's failing because you have to surrender to a higher power. And in my view, no one has to surrender to any higher power. And also, from what I'm told and what I've studied, you also have to acknowledge that you are powerless over your addiction. And I say BS to that. I say we are powerful and we have the power to change anything in our world with the right training, with the right process. That's why I think it's ineffective. And I know saying this will invite criticism, because people will say, well, I've done AA and it works for me. I'm like, if AA works for you, do it. Double down on it. I'm not, who am I to say if it's working, don't do it.
100%.
But I'm telling you, if it is working for you and you've got a year plus in that, A, do it, keep doing it, double down on what works. And B, you represent probably 7% of people who it does work for. This guy here. So I'm like, I'm high-fiving you because I'm so happy that it worked for you. In my view, statistically, the data shows it's completely ineffective for most people. And, my beliefs as to why, I think I've just shared with you. So just to wrap this up, my process, the way I do it is, instead of lamenting the past, we're focusing on the future. Instead of it being based in shame, we're like aspirational. We're having fun when we do this. When was the last time you had fun in an AA meeting? I mean, maybe there's a little bit of jokes and banter sometimes, but most of the time you're like lamenting the past. It's like, oh, everything's terrible. And you're really like white knuckling it the whole time, right? You're trying to use willpower and you're beating yourself up. Whereas what we do is like, this is fun. Let's focus on our bucket list. Hey, let's acknowledge other people. What direction are we moving in? What do you want to create in your life? There's no surrendering to some higher power, which I perceive to be nonsense, is my view. Again, I'm not saying this is fact. I'm just sharing this as my view. And again, my view is AA 12-step programs are antiquated, decades old, ineffective. And while I celebrate their mission to help people, I just think it's highly ineffective, and they're doing mostly a disservice now to most people.
And guys, before you start, dropping a whole bunch of hate and everything for what he just said, I want you to hear me out, because he's coming from a perspective of someone that didn't suffer the serious alcoholism, the serious drug addiction, and then go into the rooms. And what you're saying is right on cue with my beliefs. And I can actually tell you the history of what's happened, because I literally have my big book right here. I'm not saying I'm a member of any specific fellowship. My big book is falling apart. You can see I, read it and done this many, many times. And I actually, one time I was trying to quit smoking crack, and I was drinking a tall boy and reading this, and I spilt it on my big book, and I've kept it. And what I've noticed, guys, and this is why I talk about this so much, in the rooms, there's a totally mixed message of what the actual solution is now. They used to have 50 to 75% success rates for every single person that actually walked in the door of AA back in the founding days of it. Reason being, before you could even go into the room, you went through 9 members who made sure that you are actually an alcoholic coming in to get treated for alcoholism. And then when you came in, you were not allowed to do not the steps. You had to do the steps. You had to do the work. You had to do the program. You had to go out and help people. That was what it was about. And the success rates were awesome. Then treatment came in like the 60s and 70s. And then these different messages started coming in, like meeting makers make it. The meetings were never there to help people in long-term recovery. And they became therapy sessions for people to continue coming, when in reality, what it says in the book is that we meet frequently so the newcomer can find the fellowship they seek. The whole point of the meetings is actually for the long-timers to find the newcomers that suffer from this disease, that don't have any other solution except for this, that don't have it. And that's why I'm so passionate about everybody coming together, because we're at a different age right now. And I love my fellowships. I love the 12-step program, but we can't BS and say that we have success rates. We can't BS and say, oh, it works for everyone. Go in and do this and do this and do this. Because I did the steps in under 60 days, all of them. I did my first ever 5th step on day 25. On day 26, the obsession to drink or use completely left me, and it hasn't come back. And that's from someone who couldn't go a day without thinking about using and drinking.
Wow.
Right. And in that process, I figured out that that's the way that it works. That's how they have to do it. So in the first 18 months of my recovery, every meeting I was going to, I was telling everybody what they had to do to recover. That's what you have to do. That's the only way to do it. Do the steps quick and all this stuff. And then what I found is that it doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
Especially when I message it as if that's how you have to do it. And what I found is good about the fellowships is that it's a place where anybody suffering at any time with this disease can find a fellowship of people that will welcome them with their problem, right? And everybody that's watching this right now that is involved in fellowships, you have a responsibility just by hearing this message. When you're in a meeting, that meeting is for the newcomer. That message that you're delivering in that meeting could mean somebody's life. If we're going into these meetings and we're sharing, messaging about, wake up and make your bed and write a gratitude list and choose not to drink, that works for some people that don't suffer from alcoholism and drug addiction. But if you told me at 3 days sober from a needle in my arm to wake up and choose not to use heroin, I would go crazy. I would freak. What am I supposed to do? How can you do that? And with the solutions that are going on now, okay, there are, I mean, you're helping, high level people, you're helping executives and these people to get back into the life that they want to live and get away from alcohol and everything. And us in this community, we have to welcome this in. We have to welcome, the different treatments. We have to welcome in the MATs. We have to welcome in, Ibogaine. Have you heard Ibogaine?
No, I haven't. No.
So Ibogaine, it just got legalized in Colorado, and we're going to be able to use it in 2026 is when it'll start being able to be used. 2013, I had a 3 gram a day heroin habit and went down to Mexico to do this psychedelic medicine that is supposed to help with heroin addiction. I go down there, I take this plant, and I trip for 24 hours. Crazy. In bed, can't move. When I come out of it, I have no withdrawals, no cravings, nothing. It was completely gone. But then I went back to the same environment, went back to the same apartment, back to the same friends, no aftercare treatment, nothing. And I was using heroin again in 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
But imagine if people would stop, fighting with the things and the beliefs that they have set in their mind right now about what it means to stop drinking or using drugs, that they're right. They have to be right. Imagine if everything was welcomed so that we could actually find that solution. And that's what I'm about. Just everybody should share their story. Everybody should get it out and just really, come together.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just on that, somewhere in the big book, I think it's in the beginning somewhere, it says, and we have stopped fighting anything and anyone.
Including alcohol.
Including alcohol.
Yeah.
So that's what it says in the big book. And not to bring this back to I'm going to bring it back to the troll-like comments that I get from AA supporters on some of my Facebook posts. They're abusing me. They're fighting me. They're challenging me. They're saying that my process is ineffective. They're saying that I should be ashamed of myself. And I'm like, but that's just in complete contradiction of what the big book that you're defending so much says, which is stop fighting anyone and anything.
Yes.
So why are you fighting, in this case, me? Why are you fighting other methods that can be effective for other people? Yes. The AA organization, the people who kind of run it and oversee it, also, whenever they're asked about other methods, other processes, they always have the same response, which is we don't comment on other people's processes and methods, and that's fine.
Yep.
So why are AA participants commenting on other methods, including mine, and being so critical and hostile towards it? And again, I don't want this to be like a big criticism, but just to play on what you said, I love that you shared that we should welcome all of these different processes,
yes.
Right? And I'm saying for the 7% of people that AA seems to work for, at least according to the statistics and data, I'm like, great,
yes,
keep doing that.
Yes,
I am like high-fiving you. Keep doing that. If that works for you, keep doing it. I'm not here saying, you shouldn't do it. It's crap. It's rubbish. I'm saying if it works for you, fantastic.
100%. Yeah. And when we're talking about, so I get a lot of hate on my ads and stuff too, right? It's just part of the thing here is that, in this space of addiction and recovery and getting off of alcohol, getting off of drugs, people assume it should be free because AA and NA and those things are free, even though we pay our own dues and we're supposed to, with the seventh tradition, pay towards the meeting, right? But what I've found is, there's something that clicks in someone's mind when they choose to invest in themselves. When they choose to invest in themselves, whether it's, investing in themselves by getting rid of negative influences. That's an investment in yourself. If you have a circle of friends and a couple of them are not good for you, it's actually an investment to cut them off. It's also an investment to, put $500 into your knowledge, put $500 into a digital course to learn how to do a skill that you've always wanted to do. And right when you do that, it flips something in your head. And what's interesting is that everybody that will hate on us doing work that costs money, because we're professionals. Like I don't get to do 60 hours a week of Recovered on Purpose without having bills, right? I don't get to do that. But while we're doing this, the people that are hating on it, I never see them commenting, what about the $35K a month treatment centers that have 3% success? What about the places that literally will charge someone that is suffering in real addiction $50K a month to their parents that take them horseback riding and stuff for a month, and they do no inner work or anything? And I think it's great that I have friends in treatment that do great. They have the heart to serve and everything. But when we're charging whatever it is for the course that we're doing for a specific outcome, we need to be fighting against a system together, not fighting against each person, right? Because there's a whole lot of different outcomes that people want with life. And there's a whole lot. I've spent a lot of money on different courses to be able to write and publish a book and become a bestseller and be able to get on podcasts and learn how to do this and do all this different stuff. And I'm not saying just work with me or just work with James. I'm saying start into your practice, investing in your future, investing in yourself in that life, because it's also an investment to go sailing around the world. What do you think that's going to do for his life?
The other thing I would say to that as well is that it's not just an investment in you, it's an investment in your family and your friends and your colleagues and your staff and future generations.
Yes.
So, people are all me, myself included, right? The most important person in our life is ourselves. We're always thinking about ourselves. But I would just invite you, think about this. Who else gets to benefit from you being alcohol-free or drug-free? Who else gets to benefit from you transforming your life? Who else gets to benefit? Because a lot of times people actually don't care as much about the pain that they're inflicting in themselves, but a big motivation often for people to take action is the pain that they're inflicting on their children or their wife or their husband.
Yeah.
So, I say this a lot. When you pay attention.
Yeah.
And when something is free, you don't value it as much.
Yep.
And I'll give you one example. I'm trying to improve my Spanish at the moment, right?
Yo también.
Yeah. And, I watch some YouTube videos that are free and I watch them, but then I don't really go and practice it. Or I might practice it for a few minutes. This morning, I paid a Spanish teacher to come to my place and sit down for 2 hours and coach me on Spanish. And I really paid attention for those 2 hours because I paid. And because I'd paid, I knew that he was traveling across town to come and see me. He sat down. I blocked out that time. I turned off my phone and I was sitting there and I was present because I was paying for it. Because I was paying for accountability. I was paying for presence.
Yes.
Whereas it's free. I can learn Spanish for free on YouTube. I can go on to Spotify and get free Spanish classes, but I don't do it. It's like Warren Buffett is known as being the world's greatest investor. You can learn everything you need to learn from Warren Buffett by just typing in Warren Buffett interview and seeing like 40 years of interviews. And you can learn enough from what he says on YouTube, but you won't take action on it. I'm sorry. The likelihood is that we won't take action on that. Yep. We'll just get a dopamine release and say, that was awesome. I know how Warren Buffett invests. But I promise you this, if you had an opportunity to have a 2-hour dinner with Warren Buffett and it cost $10,000, you'd be like, well, how do I pay? I need to pay $10,000. And at that dinner, Warren Buffett might say exactly the same thing that he's been saying on YouTube videos for free for 40 years. And then immediately as that dinner finishes, you will then go and take action and put into practice exactly what he suggested you do.
Yes.
Even though he's been saying it for free on YouTube for 40 years.
Yes.
Because you paid, you pay attention, you value it.
Yes.
And again, I don't want to go over the same thing, but that is why I my belief, I guess, is one of the reasons why AA is so ineffective is because it's free, except for the buck that you throw in for the coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for everybody out there that's saying, I paid a lot for my seat, I get it. I paid a lot for my seat in every fellowship that I've ever been in also. What we say is like, we basically went through a lot of suffering, and that's what our cost is to be sitting here. And I get that, guys. But it's true. There's something psychological about investing in yourself. And this is not, we're not pitching anything here. My whole thing, and you guys have heard me say this before, and you guys have seen my free content. I've literally done a podcast that teaches my methods of how to share your story that then I coach in the coaching program, you know, and because a lot of people also like the accountability of it also.
Oh,
but
accountability is huge.
Huge. And there's something wrong when we are not willing to invest in ourselves and do what it takes to take ourselves to the next level. And what's probably wrong is that we either don't believe in ourselves, we don't believe we're worth it, we don't, there's something that we're holding on to there. And what I challenge everybody on here to do, you can even go to Udemy or, you know, these different digital course platforms that have a whole bunch of digital courses on them, and just look up a skill that you want to learn. For instance, I learned how to edit videos by going on Udemy and looking up an Adobe Premiere Pro video editing digital course and went through that. And then I do YouTube videos and things like that. And guys, you're able to find who you are by learning and growing and growing and growing. Okay. So we're going to take a quick 60-second commercial break and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is James Swanwick, and we're taking applications for our 90-day and 1-year stop drinking programs. Clients are mostly executives, entrepreneurs, and investors who have tried unsuccessfully and repeatedly to stop drinking but remain stuck in a frustrating cycle of stop-start, stop-start. Our programs are not AA, which has a reported 7% success rate. Our programs are not rehab, which has a reported 6% success rate. Our 90-day and 1-year programs involve a safe, fun, virtual community of high achievers with a process that boasts an incredible 92% success rate of clients reaching at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free. We use the latest neuroscience and personal development processes to help rewire clients' brains around alcohol and minimize its importance in their lives. We will show you how to powerfully socialize with friends, family, and colleagues, what to say and how to say it so people don't mistakenly think that you're an alcoholic or have a problem, and how to eliminate the temptation of returning to constant drinking so you can finally break the stop-start cycle. To ensure client success, Project 90 can only accept 15 new clients each month. Some of those happy clients include John Keltner from California, who said, "I've lost 10 pounds." Susie Vaughn, a real estate broker in Tennessee, who said, "I've generated 20% more leads." Jessica Gaines-Jarbo from Kentucky, who says, "I've now got joy, focus, presence, and clarity." And Joe Worley from Michigan, who says, "My wife has the real Joe back." If you're an executive, entrepreneur, or investor who's sick of the stop-start cycle and the damaging effects alcohol has on your health, happiness, and family, and you're ready to regain confidence, become more present with your spouse and children, reduce stress, anxiety, and irritability, sleep better, increase focus and productivity, and feel better quickly, you're invited to apply to become a Project 90 client. Applicants can apply for an introductory interview by visiting alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. There's a link in the show notes which you can just click, but that link is alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. Application interviews are limited and are conducted on a first-come, first-served basis. If there are no remaining interview times available, wait a few weeks and try again. Let's get back to the show.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody has calmed down. Just calm down. We just had to have a conversation about our fellowships. I love our fellowships. So if you're out there, we love you. So I wanted to have a conversation, and we were talking about this a little bit before. Why don't you use the words sober or recovery?
Yeah, sober to me implies that you are trying really hard not to consume something that you ordinarily would choose. So another way of saying that is when you say, I'm sober, I'm sober, I'm sober, to me, what you're saying is, ordinarily, I would choose this substance, but I can't. I need not to.
Yep.
And I don't like that word, sober. What I prefer is I'm alcohol free, or I'm drug free, or I'm living this particular lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? Or I've chosen this lifestyle. I'm choosing this lifestyle, as opposed to I'm cutting off this lifestyle of drug and alcohol abuse. So nowhere in my process do we use the word sober. I don't like the word recovery as well for my community, because it implies that there's something to recover from.
Right.
As if that you're inherently born with a problem and now you're recovering from that problem. Whereas I just like to say, you don't have a problem. You're not born with a problem. It's not inherently inside you. You're actually perfect.
Yeah.
And we're just choosing this path.
Yeah.
So recovery also, I think, still has a connotation for me of shame, embarrassment. Even if you're saying, oh, I've been in recovery for so long, you're still kind of acknowledging that inherently inside of you, there was some kind of problem. And I know that, if you're arrested and you go to jail and you're doing all these kind of things, that's probably what society would say that's a problem, right? Whereas I choose to look at it as, well, that's what happened. It happened. I shot up heroin. I got arrested. I did all these kind of things. That happened.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I've got to recover from that. I'm like, all right, that happened.
Yeah.
I did this, and these were the consequences. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Now I'm doing this, and these are the consequences. And the consequences are much nicer.
Positive consequences.
Yeah, positive benefits.
Yes.
Right. So people might think, well, you're just, you're picking at little straws here. These are innocuous kind of things. Language is so important.
Yes.
I mean, we arise in language. Everything that we think and feel and do comes out of language. So yeah, again, my thing is to try to move towards what you're choosing as opposed to what you're saying no to. And I use the word choose more than I use the word decide, for example. Here's another example. Decide actually comes from a Latin verb called to cut away. And so rather than encouraging people to cut away alcohol or cut away friends or cut away this, I'm choosing something.
Yes.
Right? I'm choosing. That way I'm moving in this direction as opposed to I'm moving away from this direction.
I like that. I like that. And something that because you guys have heard me break down language all the time, because in my recovery, I can't even remember a time where I said I am an addict without saying I'm either in my early recovery, I said I'm an addict in recovery, or I said I'm a recovered addict. And I'll still say that now, because I believe I definitely had something I had to recover from. I had something that was going on where from 12 years old until, November 29th or 30th of 2017, my mind couldn't stop thinking about drinking or using. There was something going on here that, like, every single day I was thinking about how I'm going to get high, how I'm going to feel this way, how I'm going to find it, this kind of stuff. Like, even in school, like, when am I going to smoke weed or whatever it was? Like, it was just something happening. And it got to a point where, I was using those really serious drugs against my will.
Yeah.
I had a point where, like, and it's in my book, where I was literally crying, looking at a syringe because I didn't want to do it, but I knew that I had to. And I can still remember the way that it was, like, magnified and blurry through my tears, looking down at the syringe, sitting at my desk, crying because I had to do it, but I didn't want to. And once I had an experience where I had, like, this legitimate experience with God, I met Jesus at IHOP, face to face, and haven't used since. And that actually gave me the power to do the 12 steps. But in that time, after I had that encounter with him, I didn't recover. I didn't have this magical like lifting off of all the obsession and all these thoughts and everything. My cravings, my withdrawals were still like really, really heavy for the next while. But while I was working the steps, while I was actually like focused on doing something that I knew is supposed to help me recover, I would get relief from it. I wouldn't be shaking and stuff while I was sitting there and doing my 4th step and everything. And then I did my 5th step. And then on day 26, the day after my 5th step, my sponsor came and picked me up like he did every morning at 6:30 a.m. in his 1983 Mailman Jeep. And we're driving to the movie theater that he managed to go in the basement and do the work. I'm looking over at this beautiful sunrise. And for the first time since I was 12 years old, I had no desire to drink or use.
Wow.
And it's really difficult to explain how that feels, where your mind is going this way one day, and then this way the other. So that's why I use recovered. And people fight me about using recovered. You're never fully recovered. I'm like, well, live that life if you want. Live that life if you want to fight drugs and alcohol for the rest of your life. You're talking to someone, you're listening to someone right now that was found dead behind the wheel of a car. You guys have seen the video of me overdosed. Like I was homeless. I was 86 from a homeless shelter, unable to do anything with my life. And I'm completely different now. I don't think about using drugs. I don't have to use drugs. There's nothing. And I'm 5 years clean and sober. That's a big deal for someone like me. And I don't want to say that I'm fighting it anymore, because what I'm doing is I'm fighting against addiction. I'm fighting against drugs. I'm fighting to prevent. I'm fighting something other than my own addiction from the past. So now with this language saying that I'm recovered, I can still, let people know what it was like, but at the same time say, we're done. I'm doing something new now. I'm doing something new. And sober, for me, I use sober, but very rarely. I just say, I'm recovered. But I think that the reason that we use it is it's supposed to be, we're in a even state of mind. We're even keeled, emotionally stable, that kind of stuff. But potatoes.
It's funny because I notice we're all using labels a lot of times, aren't we? Like, for example, I'm a recovering addict, or I used to be an addict. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're assigning a label to that. If I was coaching someone through my process, I might say, well, let's change the language around that to, I used to drink a lot of alcohol. I used to take drugs. The end. So tell me what happened. Well, what happened was I used to take a lot of drugs and I got arrested and I ended up in a homeless shelter and I was out of work and I lost 50 pounds and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I was an addict. I'm like, okay, well, you can say I was an addict, but that's putting a label on something. What's actually factual is that you drank a lot of booze, you took a lot of drugs, and these were the consequences.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now I'm looking at that through a neutral lens, as opposed to I was an addict. Oh, I was an addict. Oh, I was an alcoholic. Oh my God, you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I would say this is my invitation and just play around with this. Get rid of I was an addict. Get rid of I was an alcoholic. And just say, I used to drink a lot of alcohol and the consequences were blah, blah, blah. Now I choose an alcohol-free life. Now I'm choosing a drug-free life. And the benefits I get from that are blah, 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 blah.
Yep. And
for me, that's kind of looking at it through a neutral lens, without labels, without shame, without trying to like create something like that's so damn important. It's more just like, all right, tell me what happened. Well, what happened was this, and then what happened was this. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And guys, I want you to, for you guys that are watching right now, and whichever opinion you have about all of this, I want you to look at this and look at this conversation from a place where you're learning, not listening to our conversation of a place to, disagree or agree even. Just listening to learn the different perspectives that we can take in ourselves. We can pass them off to other people if we want, right? But the point is that he's helping people stop drinking, that need to stop drinking. He's helping people stop drinking and live a life that they want to live. And that's what all of us are about. And the thing is that I personally, if I'm talking to somebody that has never shot, drugs, maybe they're strictly alcoholic, they wake up and have the shakes and all that stuff. And I've talked to them and I've done my best to help them. I've helped, one alcoholic through the steps that was just an alcoholic. But there's a reason why we have separate fellowships also. There's a reason why we have, these things so that somebody that really relates to what I'm going through can help me, because they know what it's like to be shooting heroin in your arm with all the withdrawals and everything and all the thoughts that are going on, and how to get off of it. And then someone that is an executive, a CEO that is getting a little fat, that is not, having that wake up with energy, and, he's not really drinking every day and taking his company down like your boy here, but he needs to stop drinking to live the life that he wants to live. Imagine if there were 10,000 people doing different programs for different people at different stages of their drug and alcohol use. Imagine if that was a thing. There were 10,000 of us helping people out there. That's the mission of Recovered on Purpose. I just want to have 10,000 people that are out there sharing their stories, sharing how they recovered, how they got off of drugs and alcohol, to help people do that. Because we can't do the one size fits all anymore. Because it's not.
The University of Washington and the University of Florida are actually doing a joint scientific study on my process in 2023.
Amen.
They're taking 140 participants, and they're going to put them through this 90-day stop drinking process using some of the neuroscience tactics that I've shared here today. Mm-hmm. So that'll be really interesting to see what the results will be.
Absolutely.
I already know what the results are going to be. I just got to wait for them to happen. Yeah. And it's going to include greater clarity, focus, energy, improved relationships, better sleep, loss of weight, increase in income, overall increase in well-being, happiness, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And that's just one process. It's one process, but there are many processes that work. And again, my invitation is just experiment with the different processes until one of them really sticks for you, or you really want to double down on that.
Yeah.
Or take a little bit of each one.
Yeah.
Right. Take a little bit. I don't own the process to help people stop drinking or taking drugs.
Yeah.
And neither does AA, and neither does ayahuasca or whatever, right? Yeah. There are many processes out there. The other thing that was interesting that you said before, which I wanted to point out, which everyone does, is we talk about drugs and alcohol. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? It should just be drugs.
Yeah.
Why is it like drugs and alcohol? It's like cultural conditioning is so strong that we're like, oh, alcohol, we want to hang on to alcohol. We'll just keep that one, right? We'll keep that drug. But alcohol is actually, statistics show, the most damaging drug on the planet. Mm-hmm. It's more damaging than heroin and opioids. I mean, a few years ago, Prince, the musician, he died from opioids, as I understand it, right? And at that time, either a year before and a year after he died, all of the media were going on about how the opioid crisis. And of course, yes, it was a crisis, but it was minuscule compared to what has been going on from alcohol for decades. Like the damage that alcohol does to people's health, to relationships, to society is absolutely horrendous when you look at the statistics, more so than heroin, than cocaine, than opioids, than any of that kind of stuff. It's crazy.
Right now in the United States, I've lost a lot of friends, and a lot of people watching this have too. Last year we lost 107,000. So far this year we're over 110,000.
From what?
Fentanyl in the United States.
Wow, amazing.
And here's the thing, I'm 100% with you that alcohol is extremely damaging to the social construct, to, everything, the family dynamic, the drinking and driving, all of these things. I'm 100% with that. And I want to make sure that we're not discounting what's going on with the fentanyl crisis, because that's why I'm so for Ibogaine. I'm 100% for it. I don't care what it is. If you're doing Suboxone or methadone or Ibogaine or getting locked in a jail for a year, I don't care what it is that's going to get you off of fentanyl and heroin, because the chances of you making it out right now are slim. It's the number one killer of American men aged 17 to 44 right now.
Wow.
And it just happened in 2021, where it went above accidental death. And accidental death includes, car accidents. It includes accidental discharges of a firearm. It includes drownings, it includes fallings, all of that stuff. Fentanyl alone overtook that. And there's and bro, I can go all into the conspiracies about it, but I think China's making a heavy attack on us because 90% of it's coming directly from China. But all right, let's go back to we had let's close it out with some ways that we can live our life in recovery to peak potential, to that, how do we find that thing that we want to do, find who we are? What are some habits that we can, take into this week? Guys, it's Sunday night. Listen to these habits and let's take at least one of these and implement it into our life to live that good life and recovery that we want.
So how about I give you a day in the life of me,
okay,
right? In terms of the very intentional habits that I instill every single day, and then you can just take one of those ones. So I wake up in the morning to a little $5 alarm clock. I do not wake up to the alarm clock in my phone, as probably 99% of people do. Because when you wake up to the alarm on your phone, what do? You put your hand on your phone, and then you pick up your phone, and now you're in reactionary mode because you're scrolling, you're looking at social media and Instagram and texts and all that kind of stuff. And already you're now putting pressure on the brain. It's looking at all these different stimuli, it's getting stimulated, and this is creating stress and anxiety throughout the day. So when I wake up in the morning, it's to an alarm, but it's a $5 alarm. I hit it, and I have a rule. I do not put my hand on my iPhone until I've got up and written down 20 things that I am grateful for. I call it the daily 20. Now, before you're thinking, oh, God, I've got to do more journaling. Oh, this is a nightmare. Let me say this. Studies have shown that journaling reduces stress and anxiety, okay? And when you very specifically are writing down 20 things that you are grateful for, 20, not 2 or 3, but 20, you activate something in your brain called the reticular activating system. And that's known as the RAS. And what the reticular activating system is that when you're constantly thinking about something, you tend to see more of that thing. For example, if you and I started talking about a red Tesla car, red Tesla. Over the next few days, we'd go out, live our life, we'd probably see a red Tesla. Now, the red Tesla would have already been there, but we notice it because our brain, our RAS, is like zoning in on that which we've been thinking about. So when you do the daily 20, which is quote unquote forcing yourself to think of 20 things to be grateful for, and you write those things down, even if it feels challenging, for the remainder of that day, you will just naturally start to see evidence that there are things to be grateful for.
Amen.
Now, what happens when you live a life of gratitude and appreciation? What happens? Your stress and your anxiety drops. And what happens when your stress and anxiety drops? So does your craving for alcohol or drugs. Because the only reason that most people want to take drugs, including alcohol, is because they want to change their state. They want to change their feeling. But you can change your state and feeling 1,000,001 different ways that do not involve ingesting drugs. So daily 20 things. And people always ask, the number one question they get is, well, can you repeat the same thing every day? Well, the answer is yes, you can. It could be your family, the fact that you woke up in a nice bed. Grateful for the fact that you get to travel, that you're alive. You might be grateful for the conversation you had with your mother or father the night before. Could be grateful for the temperature outside. Could be grateful for the sunshine. Could be anything. And yeah, you can repeat those things each day. I would invite you, challenge you almost, to try to think of 20 new things every day, because the harder it is, the more you're activating the RAS. You're a strong guy. Look at the muscles here, right? When you go to the gym and you lift weights, what are you doing? Like, it's hard, right? Like you're breaking down the muscle. It's hard. And then what happens? Well, you rest, you sleep, and then the muscle grows. So likewise, you want it to be hard to think of 20 things to be grateful for, because what happens? Then the muscle of being grateful grows. And now you go throughout your day, and your RAS is like this laser seeking kind of missile that's like, oh, I see something else to be grateful for. Oh, I see something else to be grateful for.
Oh, that's good.
And then it reduces the stress and anxiety, which reduces your need to take drugs, to drink alcohol, etc.
Love it.
I drink coffee on occasion. I make sure it's only black coffee, and I only do it after I've waited 90 minutes after I've woken up, because they've done a lot of studies that show that if you drink caffeine within 90 minutes of waking up, it delays the amount of cortisol that you have in your body. So when we wake up in the morning, would naturally have a lot of cortisol because our body wants to get up and start moving. But if we drink coffee, it will then extend that cortisol release, which tends to keep a little bit of fat and makes it a lot harder for us to break down.
I'm taking that one on. I usually have coffee within the first 30 minutes. So
yeah,
taking that on.
Delay drinking the coffee for 90 minutes and let your cortisol levels naturally subside and then drink the coffee. I think that you're going to find noticeable changes in terms of energy. I try to, I don't always do this, but I try to not have my first meal until after 12 p.m. So I just rule out morning food at all. So I can, delay the fasting process. And then I'm always exercising. I go to the gym in the morning. I make sure I get at least 20 minutes of sunlight each day. At nighttime, I'm wearing a pair of blue light blocking glasses with the orange lens to block the artificial light. So that way I can keep using my phone because I'm a technology addict like the rest of us. But I do so wearing a pair of, I've got a pair here, wearing these blue light blocking glasses, which blocks that artificial light. And that, again, reduces my stress and anxiety, calms me down. And when you're calm, you're not seeking drugs or alcohol, right?
I'm taking that on too because I have blue light glasses that I was going to wear because of this and everything, but I stopped using them because I didn't think they looked good with the glaring off of my eyes.
Well, to be clear, I mean, I wear these. These are actually my own glasses. I have a sleep company called Swanwick, and these are affectionately known as Swannies. You would really only need to wear these in the last hour or hour and a half before you intended to go to sleep at night. It's not necessary during the day because we actually want blue light during the day. In fact, the biggest emitter of blue light is the sun. And of course, we want the sun. We want to embrace the sun because, again, sun reduces our stress and anxiety. The other thing is there's this thing called the Schumann resonance. Have you heard of it? The Schumann resonance is an energetic pulse that comes through the earth. So if you can go barefoot on grass or sand or in water or anything like that, that also will reduce your stress and anxiety. I don't do this every day, but any opportunity I get, I like, you know what, I'm going in there, I'm going to take my shoes off and just put my bare feet on the grass. Again, connecting to that Schumann resonance, which is that energetic pulse of the earth, reduces stress and anxiety, reduces your need to drink alcohol.
I have the grounding mats?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have one here that I haven't plugged in yet.
Yeah, that's effective as well. That mimics the Schumann resonance.
It would be good to have right here.
Absolutely, yeah. Right? It does its best to mimic the Schumann resonance. Nothing's going to beat just barefoot on the earth. Drink lots of water. Keep doing the daily 20. Sleep in a dark room. Make sure you prioritize your sleep because when you have a great night's sleep and you wake up, then you've got energy and clarity and focus throughout the day. And all of this is designed to get you reducing the cravings, reducing the need to try to release the tension of life with drugs, including alcohol. Notice I'm not saying drugs and alcohol, right? Including drugs, including alcohol. So anyway, there are a few healthy habits that I do. Yeah.
Love it. And guys, drop in the comments which one you're going to take on. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to take on the coffee one. I'm going to take on the coffee one, and I'm going to take on the blue light one. I'm going to start that tonight because I actually have blue light glasses. They don't have the orange lenses, but I
got one of my competitors, huh?
I guess I got them down here because I specifically wanted to do it because I was doing this so much, but then they just glowed at me. So guys, let us know which one you want to take on. And if you are really going to take one on, send me a message. Send me a message on the page because I'd love to hear how it goes. And guys, send some love, and we love you. Thank you so much for being here, brother. This was awesome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, and we will see you soon.
Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little one-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.